Welcome back. Thank you very much once again for joining us. You're still watching Kivumbi2017. And of course, tonight we still focus on that governor's race for the county of Kisumu. The 120-minute debate held among four of the candidates. And of course, we did not see the incumbent show up, Jack Ranguma, to that particular debate, but Senator Anyang' Nyong'o, who's seeking to unseat him, was present. There was also Peter Owino Molo, who's vying with the ANC party, Christina Tieno, who's vying with the Jubilee party, as well as David Otieno Wayera, who's vying with the Alternative Party. The issues that they think affect the people of Kisumu, some of the solutions they have in terms of manifestos, are some of the things that came out in this particular debate. And at this point in time, we analyze what came out of that particular debate. Is it viable for the people of Kisumu? Has this debate made it any easier for those who had not made up their minds on who they will be voting for in the next 25 days for the gubernatorial seat of the county of Kisumu? I'll once again introduce my guests who are with me here in studio. We have Tom Boyer, who is a political science lecturer at the Maseno University. We also have Cyprian Oduogo, who again is a lecturer of political science in Maseno University. And finally, Dr. Caleb Gudo, who is the coordinator of education programs at the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University Kisumu campus. Once again, gentlemen and lady, many thanks for staying with us. And my name is Akisa Wandera. I will be taking you through the program for the next about an hour as we analyze this particular debate that was driven by our managing editor, Joe Ageo. I'll start with you, Dr. Gudo. Something was very conspicuous in that particular debate, and it was the missing in action of the incumbent, Jack Ranguma. For you, what did this mean?
Thank you, Wandera, for this opportunity to share issues on this gubernatorial debate. I took note of the absence of the current governor of Kisumu. It is not clear to me why he wasn't in this debate, but it could be because of commitments. I also understand this in the national context in which the expected presidential debate had challenges in terms of the formatting and the issues that came up. It is possible that he looked at this in terms of that national picture.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, for you, Cyprian.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. As a political scientist, I read politics in everything. And what I want to say here is that I think this is politically damaging to the sitting governor. This would have been a very good opportunity for him to showcase himself. This would have been the time to tell the Kisumu guys who are not aware of his achievements and actually what is left for him that makes him want people to vote for him so that he can go and finish whatever is left there. So to me, I think this is not very good for Governor Ranguma. Whatever the reason, I don't know the reason, but I think he should have been here.
Do you agree with her that this is politically damaging for the incumbent?
Akisa, not just damaging, but it's very sad for democracy. Because, as I said during the pre-analysis, that this is the reality check. And as we witnessed in the Nairobi case, the presence of the incumbency could have made more juicy because everything is up to him. And so for him to have really missed out, in the eyes of the voters, it is not good. As my sister said, quite damaging. In other words, the interpretation of the voters there, what is it that he was trying to hide? That's my take. So it is really disastrous for his campaign.
Apart from his absence, Dr. Gudo, how would you rate the whole conversation, that whole debate? What for you stood out?
Very important to mention also on the absence of the current governor of Kisumu is that he missed an opportunity to give rebuttal to those who are competing for his office. However, the debate as it was, what I didn't see come out clearly was the background check of these contestants, the candidates coming out for this position. What are they coming out with? What are they laying on the table for the Kisumu people to judge them on? I thought the professor with his profile in politics spanning a number of years, he could have had a chance to lay that on the table for the Kisumu people. Same with Christine Atieno. We needed to know slightly more about whom they are in terms of their experience, in terms of what you bring to the table for Kisumu. What does PC Omolo have? What does David Wanyera have in terms of experience, in terms of past record? Where are their successes? Where did they succeed before they came on board? I think that.
So for you, that did not come out.
Did not come out.
For you, Cyprian?
Let me start by congratulating them, because talking in a national television is not very easy. And I think they really tried to articulate their ideas to the best of their ability. When you look at Atieno speaking, it's like she has an idea of what probably the county needs. When you look at Professor Anyang' Nyong'o as somebody who sat there when devolution was being established, he seems to understand what devolution is all about. And I think that is very important for Kenyans to understand, that somebody somewhere knows what devolution is about. When I look at the other presenters, I think they are trying, but the struggle for me here is, what is it that they are going to do differently from Jack Ranguma? Because right now we are saying, or they are saying, that the governor did not perform, or if he performed, he did not perform enough. I would have wanted to clearly see what is it that is making them relatively angry enough to look for that seat of the governor, in terms of the change that they are going to bring, in terms of how they are actually going to bring that change. I really wanted to see it. I think they tried, but there are still questions in the mind of the voters.
So for you, they said that the governor did not do ABCD, but they did not make it clear what they would do absolutely differently in the event they are elected by the people of Kisumu.
Exactly. I wanted them to count for me that of the devolved functions that Ranguma was supposed to undertake, roads were not constructed. Urban roads and rural roads were not constructed. And if some were constructed, they need to appreciate that. Because I don't think somebody could have sat in the office for 4 good years and completely did zero. And that is why I'm saying it's not okay that Ranguma was not here. But number two, when I'm angry enough with somebody's failures, I want to show exactly how I am going to do it. Let me give you an example. When people talk about corruption, corruption is reemerging in the counties. And now it's like we have like 49 places where corruption is taking place. If you start with the president, the deputy, the 47 governors, and so on and so forth. What would I do about corruption if I were to want to run for the seat of governor in Kisumu? I would make corruption very, very expensive for everybody and for the family of the person who undertakes or partakes in corruption.
That came out in one of the speakers, that was Senator Anyang' Nyong'o, who said they will also be involving the asset recovery agencies.
I know he did that, but personally I would first start with the corrupt individual. What would I do with you? Look at the United States of America. If you are found with any form of corruption in the United States of America, first, they will jail you for so many years that goes beyond what you've stolen from them. Two, they would make sure that your generation, nobody in your generation ever become a leader in the United States of America. So what happens? The children, your children, who are seeing you and are partaking in corruption will tell you, Daddy, you cannot be corrupt because you are going to spoil my own future. That's what I mean by making corruption very expensive. Like I said, Anyang' Nyong'o tend to understand what this devolved system is. And I think of all the speakers, is the only person who showed us exactly what he would do on corruption. But he can also do more.
Okay. You look like you want to say something.
Yeah. You know, Akisa, I was disappointed across the 4 candidates in terms of the specifics, questions that Joe was asking them in terms of their practical action plans. They were hiding in generalities, no specifics. And one thing that came out, Kisumu County is generally agricultural county. And the question is, and was put to them, what is it? So they kept on, we shall revamp agriculture. Agriculture in terms of which subsectors? Cotton, how? Sugarcane, how? So these, in terms of specifics, these were lacking. In fact, most of them were talking rhetorics. To me, to that extent, I was disappointed. One reason why I'm saying so, and let me, with all respect to Christine, she kept on hyping this kind of violence. But we have 2 factories. On your way to Ahero, we have the Jumbo factory that deals with mattresses and drums. If you go to Kisian, there is Crown Paints. So how has violence prevented those investors from coming? So most of them, I think, were captured in this attitude of rhetorics and therefore denied the county residents, the voters, opportunity to pick, I'm going to pick this candidate because of this. In fact, there are only 2 candidates that came close but not there, or Professor Nyong'o, as myself said, and of course David. But then, in beginning from Professor Nyong'o, again, he talked about Okoa Kenya. Okoa Kenya, we need a referendum. We wanted, if from 9th, as he said, what is he going to do with the current budget allocation? And 2, David, again, talking about horticulture, where and which part. We have got 7 counties, 7 sub-counties, Seme, or Kisumu West, Central, up to Nyakach, Kano, which horticultural activities. To me, because from Seme up to Nyakach, they have different ecological zones that support different agricultural activities. So such lack of specifics, to me, I felt disappointed.
Yes, and I want to pick from something you've just mentioned, the issue that came out about the vicious political cycle, specifically for this particular county, that the violence every time we have an election is carrying away investors, and some of the candidates like Senator Anyang' Nyong'o as well as PC Omolo were saying that that is just an excuse. The bigger problem is that young people are unemployed. Do you think, for you, Dr. Guru, that this was a valid argument?
I do agree. The issue of violence is an item which is glorified at the wrong place. We had violence in this country, especially after the 2007-2008 post-election violence. And we had a KPMG report which came out in May of the year 2008 about violence that had occurred in the country. And the report clearly indicated that Kisumu, even though experienced violence, had thriving business. And that corroborates what Professor Nyong'o was saying, that violence is glorified at the wrong place. Yes, we have violence, and violence is not good for any business. And I'm not here to say that we should encourage violence. We should not have any violence in any part of this country. We should not hear of it in any part, whether it is in Coast or in Central or in Kisumu or elsewhere. It is a demon we don't want to live with. However, violence is not the only reason for which we have a kind of problem in terms of our business activities. There are many other factors, as the candidates clearly said, and I do agree there are many other factors beyond violence. So on my part, I would say yes, we don't want to agree that violence should be accepted, but it is not the only reason for which we have an issue with the creation of employment, creation of business activities. There are many other factors that if anyone becomes a governor of Kisumu County, they should look into.
All right. Three of you are working with young people, you work in universities, and a very fundamental question came up about the creation of jobs in this particular county. Are you satisfied, Madam Cyprian, with the kind of responses and plans that these candidates have for young people in this county?
Well, before I answer that question, let me just say that violence is unacceptable.
Yes.
It is a no-go zone. And for any leaders, for any youth, for any human being in this country, we must condemn violence with the strongest words possible. Because we have channels of dealing with any kind of issue. Let me tell you, the violence that we witnessed in 2007 was based on the idea of this is the only way the opposition probably could drive the agenda. But right now we are seeing opposition winning so many cases in our courts. And so I want to pray to God that whatever happens anywhere, we shall use the legal systems, the legal frameworks that are put in place, and we want to request our politicians to talk to their voters or to their supporters. We do not want violence. Now, back to the question of unemployment in Kisumu County. I think, like Tom has said, there are a lot of general talks. I would want to see specifically how somebody is going to create those jobs. I know some of the speakers tried to say, for example, they are going to create those jobs through the dealing with waste management, where probably some youths or some street families can be engaged. But the question is, why is there unemployment in the first place? And usually when people talk about unemployment, I ask, how can there be unemployment in third world countries? You know, third world countries are supposed to be growing. You know, you cannot be jobless. And so one of the things that I wanted to see is that I am going to put these kind of structures in place that will enable the youth to create their own employment. And when you create your own employment, it means you are able to employ other people. Now, how do we do this? One, resources must be put in place. I expected them to talk about ways of funds, you know, these other funds that the government have put in place, how they are going to tap into those resources. I want to tell you that A budget of 15% of our national income cannot be enough to grow the counties or to create those employments that we are looking for. I wanted to see a governor telling me that they have been empowered by the Constitution to go out there and look even for more funds, for more investors, because as investors come to invest in Kisumu, those are job opportunities. I look at the Kisumu airport, and every time I fly into Kisumu airport, it's just passengers. I don't see any, big luggages that are, in form of exports or imports going out or coming into the country, being ferried to Mombasa and so on and so forth to leave our country. Why is this not happening? And yet Kisumu is located in the best place. I can tell you, we are bordering Uganda, we are bordering Tanzania, we are very close to Rwanda, to Burundi, and all those kind of things. The East African community is just centered around Kenya as a country. Why are we not doing things that would propel the economy of Kisumu?
Tomboya, youth employment or youth unemployment.
But Kisa, before there's this notion of violence. Let me react to it. It is something that is being hyped for nothing. In terms of sporadic violence among the youth, it is not unique to Kisumu County. It is across the county. However, as my sister and my brother have just indicated, I don't subscribe to violence. But however, the way it is being heaped or hyped by the politicians or certain sections, to me, in fact, going by some reports that indicated from the Minister of Interior that designated some parts of the country as hotspots. Kisumu was not one of them. So what about, why this hype of violence? However, let me come back to, there is, when it comes to...
First, do you think that hype is deliberate?
Definite. And it is that hype is what is carrying away the investors and effectively keeping jobs away from the youth. And therefore it is imperative that let us not hype this violence for the sake of it or for political expediency. In 2013, with the outcome and the nature of that election the way it was, Kisumu was peaceful, was it? Why now? Let me come back to creation of youth employment. They talked about agriculture and so forth as forms of creating employment. But then I said earlier on, when repeating, there are never specifics. However, something that none of them talked about, which to me can be a source of employment, is the location of Kisumu City. If you look at the urban planning, all the buildings are giving their backs to the lake. In most countries, the buildings will be facing the water. That has effectively even suppressed the price of land. And so much so that if you go to where you will be going for your honeymoon and so forth, in those other, the water in this lake, there are so many super hotels that will come up as source. Nobody talked about it other than the rhetorical activity. So to me, I think none of them came out with specific activities that will create employment for a youthful population.
Yes.
Employment that would want to comment is I heard Christine Otieno, the Jubilee candidate, talk about employing the street children to collect garbage as a form of youth employment. And on that alone, you get to understand that either she did not understand the law of this country, which restricts employment of minors. There is an age under which you cannot be allowed to be employed. And look at the majority of the students, of the people, the children along the streets. Majority of them are underage, or they are less than 18 years of age. Well, I know that there are others who were above 18 years. But looking at that again, you cannot balkanize and say this will be our labor force. Secondly, when I listened to Christine, I also questioned her understanding of devolution. When Kenyans were asking for devolved governments, it was out of a need to decentralize both political power and economic resources to the grassroots. And when I heard her right, she was talking of, if I become a governor, I'll collaborate with Nairobi, I'll collaborate with the national government for more funds. Why can't the government, the national government, give those funds to the counties without, it gave a connotation, an impression.
There has been a tug of war about the funding and
there's
lack of it.
There's an impression created from her presentation of a kind of a begging mission, a kind of something different outside the Constitution that should want to pursue, which I thought may not be in the spirit of devolution. Devolution was meant to devolve resources out of experience, the historical experience in governance of this country. It is important to appreciate that Kenya, before independence, was going towards regional government. And indeed, our first constitution of the Lancaster House, 1962, gave us regional governments until 1964, after the first president of this country changed himself from prime minister to president, and we got what came to be the centralized government. And the history of it, which made Kenyans again to yearn and go for regional governments, which then was called the Majimbo movement, was because of concentration of both political power and economic resources to a few individuals, and not just individuals, to a few communities. That gave us the urge and the motivation and the encouragement to ask, why can't we devolve it so that we don't scramble it for it and just concentrate on a few people? Okay. So in that presentation she made, she did not seem to understand where we came from.
All right, so let's get to the next topic, and that is food security, agriculture, some of the solutions that have been put forward by those candidates. For instance, Peter Nyanyongo spoke about access to markets for the farmers, condemning the lack of incentives for people who want to get into especially large-scale farming in the county. We had PC Omolo talk about modernizing the techniques and methods of farming as the first step before getting into anything else. And David Wayera spoke of Kisumu being dependent on its own, that currently Kisumu is importing a lot of food when unfortunately or fortunately it has a lot of potential to feed itself and other counties or even other countries. And finally, Christine spoke about engaging the youth in large-scale farming. From all these ideas that these four candidates had on achieving food security for the people of Kisumu, for you, Tomboya, which one would be the best bet?
Of the four?
Of the four.
Hey, Akisa.
Or what do you think about all these ideas that they have on food security?
I don't want to give credit to one, but I think what came out from the four of them, you know, Kisumu County is rain-fed, and because of the vagaries of the climate, then with no rain, no agricultural productivity, which leaves us with only one alternative, which I think most of them talked about, the need to invest in irrigation. And that is where I said earlier on, in terms of specifics, they were not clear. What sort of irrigation? Of course, Professor talked about it, and even David, where they indicated that they were going to use water from the lake for irrigation, but how, for which sort of produce, it is not there. So I think as far as food security is concerned, I want to concur with them that there will be a need for irrigation as a key to securing food production.
Christine spoke about the use of dams that the national government already is building in a number of areas.
Where? Where? That's why I talk about rhetorics. I don't know. Which dams? Where? Which? We have 7 sub-counties in Kisumu County. Where are those dams? Those are the rhetorics that I talked about earlier on. Let us talk about reality. You are going to, because the rivers are even drying up. So the only water, I think I want to agree with PC Omolo, that there is no law that prevents the people of Kisumu from utilizing this water for irrigation. So there is no law. So there is only the only form, no dams, no what it is this water.
All right. So I would like. Okay, quickly before we go on a break, I would like us to go on a break.
Food security. Yes, I had this the idea of large-scale irrigation for us to have food security. That must be taken with a lot of caution, considering that Kisumu, the population within this county is that large, close to 1 million, and the farmlands that we have as of today are small pieces of land of about 1-2 acres. If you are lucky, you have 3 acres. In many places, you not go beyond 3 acres. Unless we are talking about close to the lake shore, it is possible to have some land because of the wasteland we have there due to the flooding.
All right.
So it has kept away settlement.
Okay. I would like you to hold on to that thought. We're definitely getting back. The issue of land has come up severally from these candidates, and I would like to pick out your minds on that particular issue. But at this point, let's take a very short commercial break. We'll be back with this analysis, so don't go too far. You're watching Kivumbi2017.
This is KTN News.
Kenyans are not going to allow or even imagine the postponement of the presidential elections. They were well aware of this from before, so it cannot be a surprise to them. So they must do it in the fastest possible time. But as a Nairobi NASA team, we are strong, we are ready, and we'll deliver.
Sifuna here is purely NASA. Whether here is purely when our decisions come, they are leaning towards where our hearts are.
Why does he want to be re-elected? To continue doing nothing for another 5 years?
The county government is underperforming in terms of garbage collection, in terms of repairing roads and maintenance.
Guy is well known to go underground whenever there is an issue.
Anybody who has been mentioned on something, you should be the first to step out.
These are constitutionally protected offices where we expect men and women to act without fear or favor.
"47 counties, one theme. Enhancement of peaceful coexistence of Kenya communities through sport. It's the 6th edition of the Desert Wheel Race from the 20th to the 22nd of July 2017, this time at the Maasai Technical Training Institute in Kajiado County. Organized by the Northern Nomadic Disabled Persons Organization NONDO and the County Government of Kajiado, this year's race is on scaling up efforts to promote inclusion of persons with disability in peace building, cohesion and national integration process in the nomadic counties of Kenya. Activities include a peace caravan, a national peace conference, a fashion show, and the wheel race. Don't miss.
This is KTN News.
Welcome back. You're watching Kivumbi2017. Many thanks for staying with us. We continue with the post-analysis of the Kisumu gubernatorial debate that happened about an hour ago. Senator Anyang' Nyong'o, PC Omolo vying with the ANC ticket. Christina Otieno vying with Jubilee, as well as David Otieno vying with the Alternative Party showed up and debated, giving their issues and the solutions that they have come up with for the people of Kisumu. Unfortunately, the incumbent Jack Ranguma did not show up, but my panel continues analyzing and deciphering some of the things that came out of that particular debate. Dr. Gudo, you were talking about the issue of land that came up a number of times as the debaters tried to put forward some of the points they had as solutions. I'll just let you finish your point before she comments on both that and food security.
Yes, I was saying that the issue of large-scale irrigation is to be taken with a lot of caution and care, because of the small pieces of farmlands that we have within the county. And secondly, to consider the fact that the land outside the city is a communal land. It is a land owned by individuals, and it will require persuasion for them to agree to move, and that may be very difficult. Because to us, land is not just the piece of land you see, but includes the graves of their grandparents and the graves of their fathers and sisters. And so they'll question, you'll ask you, what do I do with my dead? Because there's a large attachment to the same. So it may be a good proposal, but the viability is questionable.
Cyprian, sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much. As I listen to these presenters talk, probably I'll start with the issue of land before I go to food security. I must say that irrigation is a good thing. Irrigation is a good thing. And the size of the land, I don't know if it can affect irrigation, because all that probably they are thinking of doing is building a dam and helping everybody to probably transport that water to their own lands. The part that I don't understand is that, you know, based on the nature of settlements of not only Kisumu people, but of Kenyans. You know, we settle everywhere. You know, a road cannot reach every house. That water might not be able to reach every house. And if it is to reach every land, it basically means it's very expensive. So one thing I wanted them to tell me is, yeah, where are we getting funds for this irrigation? Because the budget as for now, I had Otieno say, and Professor Nyong'o agreeing, is around 6 billion. And 70% of that money right now is getting into paying people who are working into salaries. So then we are left with 30% of that money. Yeah, tell me how you are going to sponsor that irrigation, and then I see that it is making sense. Now, what is food security? You know, I wanted these people to tell me the difference between, to define for me what food security is, or what food insecurity is. And my understanding is that it is, food security basically is about having enough to consume that also spreads into a balanced kind of diet. Are we together? So it is not that you have so much maize, but you also have other foods that complete the circle as God created us. Now, one of the things I wanted them to talk about is the productivity of every type of land and every type of soil. The fact that say Seme is dry does not mean that nothing grows in Seme. I wanted them to tell me that, for example, in Seme maybe groundnuts usually do very well. And say when we dissect what makes Kisumu County, if you look at Nyaera, some people even go to the extent of growing coffee, which means maize grows very well in Nyaera area. I wanted them to tell me what is it that grows in the lands of Kajulu. When people start talking like that, it means that they understand the county.
So what? They don't fully understand the county and the things that are needed, the priority products that would come out in specific areas?
I don't know if it was just because of time, but what I want to believe is that whenever I'm going to every direction of what makes Kisumu County, I see something that can be tapped into in form of food. I know that cassava can grow in places that don't receive probably so much rain. Millet grows in certain areas. So I wanted them to tell me that in this particular constituency, this does very well, and this is how I'm going to do it, and so on and so forth. Number two, I wanted them to use this opportunity to encourage the Kisumu people, not just to believe that if you don't eat ugali, then the other foods cannot feed you very well.
I don't know how well that would work out.
No, it would, because our grandmothers used to eat plenty of things. It is only our generation that when you cook other foods and this ugali, they ask you where is food, because the ugali is not yet there. We need to start developing this culture of encouraging our children, encouraging other people that we can eat almost anything. I remember talking to a Congolese because I was so scared the way they eat what is bordering caterpillars, these fat caterpillars. And one of them told me, you don't see it as food because you have plenty in your country. So when there is not enough, we need to become creative. And who can be more creative than a leader who is going to lead us?
All right. Let's get into something else. Solid waste management. Oh, okay. Let's just chip in before we get.
I just want to give some small reaction to what they said, which my colleague there said we have to be cautious about. I don't believe in large-scale irrigation or large-scale farming. In fact, the world over, there is a recognition of smallholder agriculture, which is key to food security. In as much as we have small pieces of land, but Akiza, let me tell you that if Tomboya have perhaps an acre, which is not suitable for large-scale agricultural productivity, but smallholder may perhaps 2 gorogoros, for instance, and a kiss another 2 gorogoros. That if we can do that, and what they need is simply irrigation. So we are not talking about that large-scale irrigation, but in the absence of rainfall, how do you intend to make these guys grow their crops? Through irrigation, in supporting smallholder agriculture.
Okay.
That's what I'm
all right. Yes. Solid waste management. There is something that has been questioned, Mount Ranguma, by Senator Anyang' Nyong'o, and that is the amount of waste in particular areas in this city, and some of the solutions that have come up, or some of the things they've said they will do in the event that they are elected. Peter Anyang' Nyong'o talked about involving village councils in the collection of garbage. Christina Tieno preferred that we look at it as a business venture for young people and see whether they can make livelihoods out of this solid waste. David Wayera talked about a garbage collection system and insisted that that particular amount of that needs to be relocated. The dump site needs to be relocated, and PC Omolo talked about building a factory that will use solid waste to manufacture electricity, as well as having lorries everywhere in the city and in the county to collect garbage. Your thoughts?
That line of waste management that bit was very interesting. and I want to concur with the candidates that of the view that that dump site needs to be relocated. Why am I saying so? One, the dump site sits between supermarket, one of the largest supermarket in the town, and the only stadium in town. So for the candidates that say there's going to be a source of income, I don't know whether they are from heaven or from which stars. But having said that, I think what they did not, they failed to inform the Kisumu voters as the political dynamics that has made it impossible to relocate the dump site. I don't have answers because I don't want to damage some of the candidates in the race. But suffice to mention that I'm in total agreement with the proposal of relocating that dump site from the city center to where God knows, I think the mechanism of which they can. But then I'm not in agreement that having that dump site there will act as a source of income. Jesus Christ, I don't know whether we are going to die, all of us, I don't know.
That's a good.
Thank you, Mandela. The issue of dump site and its relocation is common knowledge, and there's no dispute as to whether it should be relocated or not. I don't think there is, even with the current county government. Having lived in this county for so many years, I know that the dump site is a creation from around 1990s, and the defunct Kisumu Municipal Council made the first initiative or step towards relocation. I'm aware that that failed. The issue of the dump site has been a common debate in this town, and I'm also aware that at one point the Kisumu County government identified some 2 sites. One was in Mamboleo, and I think another one was around Kisian. But the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority did not accept those sites because of the birds managed, because those sites happen to be along the paths of what I would call the aeroplane paths, the flight paths. And so they posed challenge or danger to passengers using the air. So that couldn't go on. I'm also aware that, and I think it has been in the papers about the issue of, is it French Development Agency?
A standoff between
coming
that
in.
agency
No, they
and
came
the
in
county
to
government.
help.
Yes.
And I think some site in Kibigori was identified. They refused because of the road. The road connecting Kibigori, Miwani, Mamboleo Road, because of the cost of wear and tear for their machinery that would move the dump site or the garbage. I'm also aware that there are other efforts like the one that Professor talked about, some site in Mohoroni that was identified. But again, as he correctly said, it was because the community or within that region resisted. Of course, the professor said that was an excuse.
Yeah, I was getting to that. The
yeah, that he said
that it is a deliberate move by the county government to just slow this whole process.
I'm not buying that, because the politicians also have a way of creating such kind of tension or dispute. We don't have a reason as to why the community in that region refused. And I want to accept that it was an excuse.
Okay. You seem to agree with him on that.
Well, I want to start by saying that that site needs to be relocated. The land on which that waste is standing is a very I think it's a very expensive land and very strategic land that we need for the expansion of Kisumu city. But the question I want to ask our leaders as they speak about this waste management. On our television, we kept on hearing people have gone to benchmark. You know, we've gone to which country to benchmark, which country to benchmark. What is it that we saw? Because waste is created by everyone on earth. Are we together? What is, how do these other countries deal with their waste? And to tell you the truth, one of the things that I think they really struggled with, and credit needs to be given where it is due, is that this waste, it can be a source of income. It cannot be a source of income sitting at Kachok. That one we are saying it must move. But other nation states, I lived in the United States of America for a very long time. And when you go to where they dump, there are always different containers for different types of waste. And so one of the things, I don't know if it was Otieno who talked about recycling and making sure that everything...
That was David.
That was David.
Yes.
And I think that is a very good school of thought. The question is, how do we make our people to know that they need to sort out their waste? Because some waste are still useful for recycling and can be a source of income, can be a source of jobs for our people. How do we make sure that we create good dump sites that are well marked, so that when I go to throw my bottles, you know I need to put them here because they can be turned into more money. When I want to throw my leftover ugali, I know that ugali can be turned into probably some kind of gas.
Okay.
When I throw my polythene bags, I know that polythene bag can be used for making baskets. We've seen some very beautiful baskets being made with recycled polythene bags. Now, the work of the governor now is to come up and tell us that when I come to power, I am going to locate a small place in Mamboleo, I'm going to put one in Nyamasaria, I'm going to put one, and I'm going to make sure that in my first 90 days of into the office, trainings will be going on. Now, where I live, people just fly their things, or you have to pay for other people to come and collect your rubbish. Okay. So they need to put those strategies in place, but I believe that waste can actually be turned into cash.
Yes, quickly.
On the issue of this waste management, I think as the professor was telling us that it is an excuse, I think we also need to appreciate the need of involving the community. One of the pillars of devolution is public participation. And if a community say that, yes, you identified this side, but because we stay around here, we are saying no. So that need to have cooperation with the community or work together with the community is very important. And two, the dump site need to be moved as soon as yesterday. For one good reason, that it is also a hindrance to the development of Kisumu. We have had through public, let me say the print media and the electronic media, about the Kisumu Moi Stadium that has not been constructed to the standard it should have. And one reason being given forth is the existence of a dump site. So I think it is something that we should remove, if possible, yesterday.
All right. Quickly, as we wrap up, I would like to know from all of you how you would rate all the candidates in this particular debate, and do you think there's a chance that it would change the dynamics on how people will vote in the next 25 days as per how they have debated today? I'll start with you, Tomboy.
Akisa, I think this was a perfect forum that they were given. I want to believe that majority of Kisumu residents tuned themselves to KTN. And based on my interpretation of their take, of their debates, articulations is different from that from Mamboga down there. So I want to say that based on what they said today, to some extent, maybe is going to change their voting pattern. But I want to tell you, the voters have already made up their mind. But of course, for my first time to see the three candidates, I've just been hearing about them. So I think, just like the rest of the Kisumu residents, this is an opportunity to see, that is Christine, that is David, that is Omolo, and that is Professor Nyanga.
All right, Cyprian.
Yeah, I think it was a good opportunity for them. Now people can tell the faces. I think that was good. In terms of it can lure the voters to vote to a certain direction, maybe not. I want to believe that there are certain issues that they completely ignored that would have brought the attention of the voters. For example, they did not talk about the gender. Gender culture is actually also devolved. We talked about the youth, but we did not really talk about the women. What is it that we are going to do for them? Industrialization. Let me just finish this. Industrialization and trade are also devolved. But nobody tended to tell us about, what is it that we can industrialize. For example, if you go to Kadongo here, the potatoes that are being grown there and going to waste, how can we turn them into goodies, bring industries that can turn them into what can make money?
Dr. Gudo, we'll let you have the last word on this.
Thank you. As to whether this debate would win them more voters, debatable, largely because they say politics is local. And local here would mean this is one county. What is local about it? Local about it in terms of how far they have related with voters, their spokespersons within those the 7 sub-counties. What this debate gave them largely is visibility. And especially for Christine, for PC Omolo, for David, I'm meeting them for the first time.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen and lady. Unfortunately, in respect of time, we'll have to end it there. Tom Boyer, on my immediate right, is a lecturer of political science at the Maseno University. Thank you for coming. Cyprian Oduogo is a political science lecturer as well at the Maseno University. And finally, Dr. Caleb Gudo is a coordinator of educational programs at the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University, Kisumu campus. Gentlemen and lady, thank you very much for helping us go through that debate, analyze. Of course, it's now up to the people of Kisumu to decide whom they want at the helm of this very beautiful county. Many thanks for joining us here on Kivumbi. And as I wrap up, I leave you with the engagement that my colleague Lofty Matambo, our in-house returning officer, had. Let's see how the people of Kisumu polled on a number of issues that they would like to be made priority once a governor is elected, and some of the things they have had to say. My name is Akisa Wandera. Many thanks for joining us. I leave you with Lofty Matambo and the people of Kisumu County.